Welcome to Charette Theory, your quiet corner for exploring design that feels timeless, rooted, and deeply connected to the seasons. Today, I invite you to step inside with me, into the heart of a kitchen where Colonial Revival charm transforms cold winter nights into moments of warmth and memory. Before we jump in, if you love exploring inspiring design ideas and architectural stories, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell, so you never miss out on what's coming next. Alright, let's get into it. Picture this: outside, the first snow has begun to fall, layering rooftops in white and settling along stone pathways. Bare trees sway gently under the weight of fresh powder, while the wind carries that familiar hush only a winter's evening can bring. But here, in this kitchen, the world feels different, softer, more sheltered. There's a subtle creak of wooden floorboards under your feet, the warmth of the range humming steadily, and the glow of pendant lights casting a welcoming sheen across painted cabinetry. In the next hour, we'll wander through this space together. We'll pause to admire the simple beauty of wide plank floors and exposed beams, run our hands along soapstone counters that hold the chill of morning but warm quickly under the glow of afternoon cooking. We'll talk about colors that calm the mind in deep winter, muted creams, gentle grays, the hint of a colonial blue that frames a frost-touched window. This isn't just about style, it's about the feeling you carry when you wake up to snow on the sill, pad softly into your kitchen, and find everything waiting for you: the sturdy oak table that holds steaming mugs, the basket of fresh bread, the faint scent of pine from a branch tucked into an old jug on the counter. Whether you live in a centuries-old New England farmhouse or a new build that needs a touch of history, Colonial Revival design offers lessons in enduring warmth. So, pour yourself something hot, tea, coffee, or mulled cider, wrap up in your coziest sweater, and settle in. Together, we'll learn how to bring that same sense of quiet winter comfort into your own kitchen, a place where tradition meets today, and every snowy evening feels like an invitation to stay just a little longer. Before we get lost in color palettes and cabinetry details, let's linger for a while on the spirit behind Colonial Revival, the feeling that breathes warmth into timber beams and turns an ordinary kitchen into the beating heart of a winter home. Colonial Revival isn't just an architectural style. It's a conversation with history, a gentle nod to the craftsmanship and practicality of early American homes, reimagined for modern life. This design language rose to popularity in the late 19th and early 20th centuries, when homeowners longed to reconnect with the enduring simplicity of the colonial era. As cities bustled and technology advanced, people found comfort in spaces that felt familiar, sturdy, and built to weather the passing years. Step into a true Colonial Revival kitchen and you'll notice the sense of balance first. Proportions feel honest. Wide doorways framed by simple moldings, windows that bring in just enough daylight to offset the dusky hours of winter, and a layout that flows naturally from one task to the next. There's a quiet dignity to these rooms, not overly ornate, but never stark either. Look closer and you'll find stories in every plank and panel. Shaker-style cabinet doors speak of an age when things were made by hand, built to serve families for generations. Farmhouse sinks, deep and wide, recall the days when washing up was a task done together, often while snow fell beyond the window panes. Exposed beams overhead remind us of timber cut from nearby forests, hewn with care and fit with joinery that stands strong even centuries later. But Colonial Revival isn't frozen in the past. It welcomes modern life graciously. Tucking state-of-the-art appliances behind paneled fronts, blending sleek stone counters with antique butcher blocks, and finding room for open floor plans without sacrificing the cozy intimacy that defines a good winter kitchen. It's a style that whispers rather than shouts, a quiet refuge from the world outside. It lets you feel rooted in something enduring. When the wind howls through the eaves and frost creeps along the window glass, the Colonial Revival kitchen is where light and warmth gather, drawing people in like moths to a gentle flame. So, as we move forward, keep this spirit close, a respect for the past, a comfort in the present, and a kitchen that feels like a timeless sanctuary, especially when the snow begins to fall. Now that we understand the spirit of Colonial Revival, let's step deeper into the bones of the kitchen, its layout and structure, because this is where your winter comfort truly begins to take shape. In old New England homes, the kitchen was often the warmest room in the house, thanks to its proximity to the hearth. Families gathered here not just to prepare food but to keep warm through long winters. That practical heart still guides the way we plan these kitchens today. Start with the flow, how you move from one task to the next. Colonial Revival kitchens honor practicality with clear, logical zones. Picture a generous work triangle connecting the stove, the sink, and the prep space. These paths are well trodden, from washing vegetables under a deep apron sink, to chopping beside a window that frames drifting snow, to simmering a hearty stew over a range that glows like an old hearth fire. If you have an existing chimney or fireplace, celebrate it. Let it anchor the room with a sense of permanence and ritual. Even if you don't have one, you can evoke that same warmth with a modern range nestled into a simple mantel surround, or a wood stove that quietly hums on a bitter winter day. By the way, if you're enjoying this so far, please give it a like, it really helps more design lovers find Charette Theory. And don't forget to subscribe if you haven't yet, we've got a lot more ideas coming your way. Now, back to the details. Flooring in a Colonial Revival kitchen should ground the entire space. Wide plank floors, think aged oak, warm pine, or hand-scraped maple, creak gently underfoot and wear their scuffs like stories. They are not pristine, they're alive, gathering character with each season. Overhead, exposed beams remind everyone of the craftsmanship that holds the house together. They draw the eye upward, adding height without grandeur, just honest structure that feels safe and sound when a storm rattles at the windows. Walls can be clad in beadboard wainscoting, painted in soft, heritage-inspired hues. This small detail goes a long way toward creating a layered coziness, a texture that catches the light and echoes the handiwork of centuries past. Think, too, about natural gathering spots. Maybe there's a nook by the window where a bench fits perfectly, or a cozy corner for a small breakfast table. In Colonial Revival design, these moments are intentional, encouraging people to stay close, to linger over morning coffee or an evening cup of tea while the cold settles outside. These foundational choices, the bones of your kitchen, are what give you that deep, reassuring comfort when the temperature drops. They are not flashy or trendy. They're timeless, sturdy, and true to the idea that a well-built kitchen isn't just a place to cook, but the room that quietly holds the rest of the house together through every season, and especially through winter. With your kitchen's bones thoughtfully laid out, it's time to turn your attention to the materials and finishes that transform this practical framework into a true haven when snow lies heavy on the rooftops. Colonial Revival kitchens find their warmth not in excess but in honest, tactile beauty. This is where your choices breathe life into the room, surfaces that age gracefully, textures that invite touch, and colors that carry the calm of a quiet snowfall. Start with your cabinetry. In Colonial Revival, cabinets are more than storage, they're a statement of craftsmanship. Solid hardwoods, painted or stained, should feel sturdy beneath your hand. Shaker-style doors are a natural fit, their clean, recessed panels echo the unpretentious elegance of early American joinery. Colors here lean soft and lived in, think warm creams, muted sage greens, or heritage blues that reflect the tones found in old colonial farmhouses, adapted to feel fresh and serene on winter days. Countertops bring another layer of practical comfort. Soapstone is a classic choice, cool and velvety to the touch, yet surprisingly forgiving when you set down a steaming kettle. Its subtle veining and deep, moody tones pair beautifully with painted cabinetry, grounding the space in a quiet sophistication. Butcher block is another timeless option, its grain telling its own story with every scratch and stain. It feels warm under your palms, the perfect surface for kneading bread while snow drifts past the window. Backsplashes are where small details shine. Classic white subway tile feels at home here, crisp but never sterile, especially when paired with a dark grout that hints at vintage charm. Beadboard paneling is another beloved touch, simple, practical, and instantly evocative of colonial homes where nothing went to waste and every board served a purpose. Then there's the hardware, a subtle but powerful way to reinforce warmth. Unlacquered brass is especially beautiful in a winter kitchen. At first, it gleams softly under pendant lights, but over time it dulls and deepens, developing a patina that looks perfectly at ease beside worn wood and stone. Oil-rubbed bronze or forged iron pulls nod to the ironmongery of colonial days, hardware that feels good in the hand, cool at first touch, then warm from years of use. The beauty of these materials is how they respond to the season. In the depths of winter, when daylight slips away early, they gather the glow of task lighting and candlelight, turning your kitchen into a refuge from the cold. A slab of soapstone can hold the warmth of a teapot resting on it. A butcher block island softens the echo of footsteps on wood floors. Worn brass catches the flicker of a fireplace in the corner, reflecting it back in the smallest glimmers. As you make your choices, remember that Colonial Revival is not about pristine perfection. It's about living finishes that shift and settle into your daily rituals. Let scratches tell their story. Let stone stain a little from red wine or citrus. These marks become part of the comfort, proof that the kitchen is not just a showpiece but a space that serves you well through every frost and thaw. When the sun sinks early behind bare branches and the world outside dims to a quiet grey, your kitchen's lighting becomes the true keeper of warmth and welcome. In a Colonial Revival kitchen, lighting is never just about illumination, it's about atmosphere, comfort, and carrying the hearth's glow into every corner when winter presses in. Think of lighting here as layers, each one carefully chosen to soften shadows and wrap the room in a gentle radiance that feels like an invitation to stay a little longer, to pour one more cup of tea, to linger at the table while snow taps against the windows. Start overhead. A central pendant or a series of smaller lantern-style fixtures can echo the candlelit origins of early colonial homes, updated for modern life. Look for designs in aged brass, iron, or pewter, metals that reflect a muted, warm sheen rather than harsh brightness. If your kitchen has a large island or a farmhouse table, hang 2 or 3 pendants in a row. The repetition feels rhythmic, a subtle nod to the balanced proportions that define Colonial Revival. Next, focus on task lighting, an essential layer in any working kitchen, especially when winter's dusk falls before supper is even on the stove. Under cabinet lights tucked discreetly beneath shelves or upper cupboards cast a soft wash over your counters, making it easy to prep vegetables or knead dough without harsh glare. If you have open shelving or glass front cabinets, consider adding small interior lights to highlight your favorite heirloom dishes or a row of copper pots that gleam like burnished treasure. But the real magic happens in the ambient layer, those little points of light that make a kitchen feel like a living room when darkness gathers outside. Wall sconces flanking a pantry door or a stove alcove create pockets of glow that break up deep corners. A small table lamp perched on a side counter or tucked into a built-in shelf can be left on through the evening, its soft pool of light turning a once-forgotten corner into a comforting nook. Candles, too, belong here, and not just for special occasions but for ordinary winter nights when you crave that flicker of flame. Simple hurricane lanterns on the windowsill, a trio of brass candlesticks on the dining table, or a cluster of votives near a stack of cookbooks, each tiny flame echoing the hearth traditions that Colonial Revival holds dear. Together, these layers do more than brighten a dark day. They shape the mood of the room, quiet, welcoming, never harsh. The painted cabinets glow softly under warm bulbs. Soapstone counters catch reflections like polished stone by firelight. Shadows gather in corners, but they feel friendly, not cold, reminding you that the heart of winter is not the darkness outside but the gentle radiance inside, where family and friends gather to share warmth and conversation. In the end, good lighting in a Colonial Revival kitchen doesn't just help you see. It helps you feel at home, even when the wind rattles the eaves and snow drifts deep against the door. the bones strong, the finishes warm, and the light softly layered, it's time to think about what truly brings life to your Colonial Revival kitchen in the deep of winter, the furnishings that gather people together, invite them to linger, and hold all the little moments that become family stories. If the cabinetry and beams are the sturdy frame, then the table at the center is the hearth, a gathering place that holds steaming dishes and warm mugs, holiday baking projects, quiet breakfasts, and late-night conversations when the snow won't stop falling. In a Colonial Revival kitchen, the dining table is almost always wooden, solid, and practical in its beauty. Look for a piece with history if you can, a reclaimed farmhouse table with worn edges, scratches that speak of generations who came before. If new, choose something built with the same spirit, thick planks, sturdy legs, maybe a simple trestle base. It doesn't need ornate carving. Its character comes from honest craftsmanship and the stories it will collect over the years. Surround it with chairs that echo the same unpretentious charm. Ladderback or Windsor chairs fit naturally into a Colonial Revival space. Their spindles and curves are rooted in early American design yet feel timeless beside modern details. If you like a bit more comfort, mix in a built-in bench or a few slip-covered chairs. A long bench along one side, draped with a folded wool throw, can feel especially inviting on cold days, an informal touch that says, "Stay a while." Don't overlook what lies beneath. A braided rug or a flat-woven wool runner under the table does more than warm your feet, it softens footsteps on the plank floors, dampens echoes in a room full of chatter, and ties the whole gathering space together. Patterns here can be subtle, muted stripes, classic Colonial-inspired motifs, or a simple check that feels at home with gingham curtains or linen napkins. If your kitchen is large enough, a small seating nook can extend the sense of comfort even further. Maybe it's a window seat tucked under a row of casement windows, piled with plump cushions in shades that echo the soft whites and deep blues of your cabinetry. Picture settling in here with a book on a snowy afternoon while a pot of stew bubbles on the stove a few steps away. A well-placed sideboard or hutch completes the picture. Painted or left in natural wood, it holds stacks of everyday dishes, extra linens, and a favorite teapot ready for winter mornings. Open shelves display stoneware mugs, a row of cookbooks with worn spines, maybe a basket of pine cones or a bowl of seasonal fruit that brings life and color to the space. These furnishings do more than fill the room, they shape how you use it. They turn your Colonial Revival kitchen into a winter living room. A place not just to cook but to gather, to pause, to soak in the hush of a snowstorm outside while warmth and conversation build inside. Here, around this table and these chairs, memories are made that carry your family through the season, and long after the last snow melts away. that the table is set and the chairs are gathered close, let's open the cupboards and peer into the small details that turn a Colonial Revival kitchen into a place where daily life and timeless charm meet. Because in a winter kitchen, storage isn't just hidden behind closed doors, it's part of the room's story, blending utility with display in a way that feels both practical and deeply comforting. Colonial Revival design favors the idea that what you use every day should be close at hand and beautiful enough to be seen. Start with the cabinets themselves. Floor-to-ceiling built-ins painted in soft heritage tones hold everything you need through the long season. Their deep shelves swallow stockpots and platters for hearty winter meals, while drawers slide open to reveal stacks of linen napkins, cast iron skillets, and heirloom silver waiting to shine on a holiday table. Open shelving is one of the quiet heroes of this style. A sturdy run of wooden shelves, bracketed with simple iron or brass supports, makes room for your daily wares: white stoneware bowls, thick mugs ready for hot cocoa, glass jars lined neatly with dried beans, pasta, or the season's last canned peaches. There's no need to fuss over perfection. Slight mismatches, well-used pieces, and old jars with handwritten labels only add to the sense that this is a working kitchen, alive with memory and care. Glass front cabinets balance openness with a touch of protection. Behind their panes, you can tuck away special dishware, perhaps plates passed down through generations or a small collection of copper mixing bowls that glow warmly in the light. The gentle gleam of glass helps bounce that light around the room, softening corners that winter dust might otherwise claim too early in the day. Hooks and rails deserve attention, too. A simple pot rail above the stove can cradle your most used pans or a bundle of dried herbs gathered from the garden before the first frost. A line of shaker pegs on an empty wall becomes the perfect place for aprons, market baskets, or a wreath of dried lavender that scents the air when the oven door swings open. Look, too, to the hearth. If you're lucky enough to have a fireplace or wood-burning stove here, treat its surround like a stage for small seasonal displays. A few taper candles, a row of old cookbooks leaning against each other, or a stack of cut firewood ready for the next snowy night. The hearth is the soul of this style, a quiet reminder that warmth is both literal and symbolic, especially when the wind rattles the eaves. Even small storage touches can carry the mood. Woven baskets lined up beneath a sideboard gather root vegetables from the winter market. A vintage bread box sits on the counter beside a crock of wooden spoons. A bundle of kindling leans in a brass bucket by the door. These details keep your kitchen honest, a place where beauty grows out of daily life, not staged perfection. In a Colonial Revival kitchen, storage and display weave together seamlessly. They invite you to live fully in the space. To cook, to gather, to rest, and to watch the seasons pass, knowing that everything you need is close by and everything you love has a place. With the shelves stocked and the table waiting, it's time to drape your Colonial Revival kitchen in the soft layers that make winter feel not only bearable but beloved. Textiles and accents are where warmth turns tangible, the details that invite a hand to linger on a linen curtain, a foot to sink into a braided rug, or a shoulder to relax into a cushion at the window while snow drifts silently outside. Start at the windows. In a season when daylight is precious, Colonial Revival kitchens favor treatments that soften the cold edges without shutting out what little sun there is. Simple cafe curtains in linen or cotton, perhaps with a subtle check or ticking stripe, filter winter light into something gentle and forgiving. If your windows are larger, floor-length drapes in natural weaves can add a touch of drama while holding back the drafts that sneak in when the wind rattles the panes. Move next to the floor. A practical surface, yes, but also an opportunity to anchor the space with warmth. Braided rugs, flat woven runners, or wool quilines, all in earthy tones or classic colonial motifs, offer more than insulation. They muffle footsteps in the quiet of early mornings, when someone pads in for the first cup of coffee before dawn breaks over snowy roofs. They catch crumbs from crusty bread and can be shaken out easily, ready to serve again. Layer your seating areas, too. The farmhouse table that holds steaming mugs deserves linen napkins and a woven table runner that echoes the colors of the season, muted reds, faded blues, warm browns that feel right at home alongside pine cones and evergreen sprigs arranged in a simple crock. Ladder-back chairs and benches benefit from a bit of softness, plump seat cushions in ticking fabric, or small wool throws tossed casually over the back, ready to pull around your shoulders when the kitchen air turns crisp. If you're enjoying this deep dive, go ahead and tap that like button. It lets YouTube know you'd like to see more videos from Charette Theory, and it really helps the channel grow. And if you're not part of the community yet, hit subscribe and ring the notification bell. There's plenty more inspiration coming your way. Alright, let's get back to it. Even your working areas can wear these touches of softness. A collection of well-loved tea towels hangs from a rail, easy to grab when the kettle boils over or a loaf of bread comes out of the oven, its crust crackling in the warm kitchen air. A pot holder stitched in a traditional pattern rests by the stove, reminding you that even the simplest tool can carry a bit of story and care. Accents, too, speak the language of winter comfort here. An old crock brimming with wooden spoons. A vintage pitcher used as a vase for seasonal greenery, sprigs of cedar, holly berries, or bare branches dusted with frost from your morning walk. A basket of apples or winter citrus brings life and color, its shape echoing the rounded, welcoming curves found in colonial furniture. Finally, listen for the quieter details. The clink of iron hooks holding a wreath by the door. The soft scratch of a broom resting in a corner, bristles slightly frayed from years of sweeping up flour and pine needles. The faint warmth of a candle in a brass holder flickering on the mantel or window ledge, a tiny defiance against the long night outside. Together, these textiles and accents do what walls and beams cannot. They make the room feel human, alive, and ready to embrace the people who pass through its doors. They remind you that a Colonial Revival kitchen is not a museum piece but a living, breathing heart of the home, especially when winter deepens and the world outside retreats under a blanket of snow. By now, the bones are set, the finishes glow with warmth, and the smallest details hum with comfort, but a Colonial Revival kitchen truly comes alive when you imagine it not just as a design plan but as a living space, ready to hold the gentle, ordinary moments of a winter's day. Picture an early morning, the sun just cresting over snow-laden rooftops. You wake to a soft hush outside, the world muffled under fresh drifts. Bare feet press into wide plank floors, cool at first, but quickly welcoming under a well-placed braided rug. The kitchen greets you in a quiet glow, a lone pendant light over the table, a small lamp flickering in the corner, the first promise of warmth before the day fully wakes. At the sink, deep and apron-fronted, you rinse winter citrus under a thin stream of water that steams in the cold air. Outside, the window frames a world painted white, frost etched across glass like a memory of the past, echoing the colonial details that hold this kitchen together. The smell of fresh coffee drifts from the counter where a pot sits on the soapstone, its gentle warmth radiating into your palms as you wrap your hands around your mug. Later, the room hums with quiet purpose. A cast iron pot bubbles on the stove, filling the air with the comforting aroma of a hearty stew. Sunlight slants through linen curtains, catching on the unlacquered brass hardware, making it gleam like it's been here for a century, and perhaps, in spirit, it has. Open shelves display everyday plates stacked neatly beside mason jars filled with grains and spices. A fresh loaf rests on the butcher block island, crumbs scattering in the same places they always do. The table sits ready, sturdy, and familiar. Around it, loved ones gather as afternoon fades to evening. Laughter drifts up to the beams overhead, warming the wood that has seen many winters before. Candles flicker on the mantel if you have a fireplace nearby, if not, their gentle glow lines the window ledges, defying the early dusk with a soft light that says, "Here, we are safe. Here, we are together." As the night deepens, the last plates are stacked in the farmhouse sink. A hand-woven towel dries them one by one. A wool throw is pulled tighter around shoulders as stories linger long after supper. The wind may howl at the door, rattling panes in their frames, but inside, this Colonial Revival kitchen holds steady, sturdy, enduring, full of the small comforts that make a house feel like home. This is the magic of it all, the design choices, the timeless materials, the careful layering of light and texture. They mean nothing without the life that unfolds here. The steaming mugs pass between cold hands. The smell of fresh bread on a snowbound afternoon. The quiet promise that each winter, no matter how cold, finds warmth waiting within these walls. So as you step back from this hour together, take with you more than ideas for cabinetry or a shopping list for vintage rugs. Take with you the reminder that a kitchen, especially a Colonial Revival kitchen, is more than the sum of its parts. It's a space built not just to serve, but to shelter. To hold your early mornings, your late-night conversations, your seasonal gatherings that stretch long into snowy nights. To carry forward a sense of rootedness, a quiet link to those who came before, and a gentle promise of comfort for all who pass through. As you imagine your own winter kitchen, think of how the beams overhead catch soft light, how the soapstone chills and warms under your hands, how the open shelves display more than dishes, they display your story. Think of the table that bears the weight of every holiday feast and weekday meal alike. Think of the small moments that make these choices worth it. A child perched on a bench, a pot of tea steeping, snow softly falling outside while inside, all is calm. Thank you for spending this time with Charette Theory. If these ideas sparked something for you, or a memory, an intention, a plan, I'd love to hear it. Share your thoughts below, subscribe if you haven't yet, and stay tuned for more timeless design stories that honor your seasons, your home, and the quiet rituals that make it all worthwhile. Until next time, may your kitchen be warm, your nights cozy, and your winter made softer by the comfort you build within these walls.